Hello everyone, Bernina Jeff here. This video is going to be about how to restore an old Treadle sewing machine. This happens to be a Singer Treadle, and from the look of the dust and everything in here, it has been sitting somewhere out of the rain and out of the weather for a long time. We have nothing really pulls there, but we have empty drawers. They're good and solid, they all match. So the outside wood, I think I'm just going to give a good cleaning job, and maybe either a light tongue oil or maybe some pledge. We'll just have to see. The lady just wants something to look good in her living room or whatever. So when we open this guy up, we have the typical basic heavy Singer machine in there. It's a Treadle. It's run with a belt. I have the belts for sale. They're only like $6 or $7. They're leather, and you trim them to size with like a rose trimmer. So now this guy comes up, and as we lift him up, we want to pull him past flat, push down the little flap, and now he rests right there. So this one doesn't have a lot of decoration. And let's see what the serial number is on it. It has a letter in front of it. It's an AB. I was told that Singer started putting letters in front of their serial number at 1900. So this is probably an early 1910, 1920 machine. So what I do first is I check to see if it turns. It turns freely. Parts are moving correctly. I see that it has check spring. Things look like it's supposed to be working there. This particular model is really tight there. Excuse me, there's dust in this guy. Excuse me. So, even has a good old wooden spool called Clark's, size 60. I wonder what age that one is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my first attempt at editing. So this is the before pictures. I'm going to show you the after pictures and then the process that I go through to make this a nice piece of artwork for your living room or sewing room or just entry room, because us sewists like these old works of art and all the wonderful woodwork, and look at the grain in that front there. So this is step one, and I hope that my editing will work out well by piecing several videos together. I'm going to put it in fast forward when I'm turning screws and stuff, but I'm going to show you the basics of taking this apart, what needs to be really looked at, and where to oil, what to lubricate, and that way you can have a functional piece. I mean, electricity goes out, you might just want to keep us sewing, and you'll have an option to do that. Anyway, I can remember one of these in my aunt's basement when we were growing up in Minnesota. Go back there for vacation, and we abused it pretty well. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, I've done that before.
All right, so the first step is we're going to tilt the machine back and take it out from the pins that hold it in. Underneath here there's a screw, and they have little studs in here, and you loosen them quite a bit, and you just loosen those guys up and get ready for some weight. And now they come right off the pin. So now I'm going to go take this home and video the next process of taking parts off and inspecting and oiling and lubricating them. So there we go on that part. All right, so it is at home, and I just had a really nice supper and finished off with a little glass of rich, deep red, jammy Pinot Noir. And now I'm going to show you the ins and outs of how to get this Singer old Treadle back to operating order and make it look like a nice display item for your den or wherever else your sewing area. So here we go. My first step on checking out a machine is to start at the bottom. I like to check out the bobbin, and I like to try to do a little test sew. So I'm going to try to simulate sewing with this before I even start servicing it. So this door was really tight, so I push it open. And what's cool about some of these machines, this has a little button you push, and the bobbin pops up. So I got the bobbin here. There's 4 or 5 colors of thread on it. That's pretty standard. So I'm going to place it in there the way it's supposed to go. And this particular one, the bobbin spins counterclockwise, because I always check the angle of the slot that the thread goes in, and if the thread's got to follow the angle of that slot. If you go against the angle of the slot, you might be putting the bobbin in the wrong way. This feels a little tight. It's just one of those things that I know from all the experiences I've done. So now I've got the bobbin set. I'm going to raise the presser foot, because even on these old machines, a lot of times the tension unit will open up. This one doesn't open up with the presser foot. So when I thread it, I'm going to make sure the thread gets in between the tension unit really well. I already tried this old Coat 60 thread, and it broke before I even could get through it. So I'm going to put some modern thread on there. So down the first guide, I'm holding on really tight. I'm pulling up through the tension unit. I'm catching the check spring. I'm coming underneath this upside down post. It's called a stirrup. And we're going to go underneath that stirrup so the check spring and the tension unit all function. And there's a guide. There's a thread guide that you can't see over here. There's a thread guide here. And I have a broken needle. I'm going to replace the needle. I didn't even check that, but I have a whole supply of them here. And when I'm working on a machine, I like the largest eye possible. And this isn't it, but I try to get what they call top stitch needles. They're really easy to thread. The thread almost jumps right through them. I'm hoping that this one, the flat goes to the right. Yeah, it looks like that's the way it came out. And depending upon my eyesight, I'm going to thread this left to right. A couple stabs should do it. And there we go. Now, I'm going to see if this is in timing. If I hold onto this thread and kind of hold it upward and rotate the machine, the hand wheel toward me, if it's in timing, the bobbin thread will pull up. And sure enough, it did. This machine will sew. So that's going to give me a whole lot of less things I'm going to have to do with it. So I'm going to grab me a piece of fabric, a swig of wine. Everything goes better with wine. All right, so I'm going to lower the presser foot. I think my tension's okay, and I'm just going to hand crank this up. There is a stitch length knob, and this stitch length knob can go in or out to help change the stitch length. And you have to kind of give this a little bit of patience, give it some turns. All right, we're getting about 1 inch of stitches. I'm going to bring this needle to the very highest. I always like to get the take-up lever to the highest point. Lift up the presser foot. It's still very tight, so I'm going to pull some tension out of this top so I don't mess up the needle. And I'm going to trim my threads. Oh my goodness. This thing probably hasn't sewn in ages, and it's got a perfect, beautiful stitch. This stitch is as good as the modern day Berninas, if not better. I mean, these only do one thing. They sew straight. They don't even sew backwards. So it's amazing that this stitch is, I mean, I'm impressed on how nice. So that tells me I'm not going to have to make a lot of adjustments, which is going to be great for you guys out there, because if you have to make some technical adjustments like timing and feed dog height and all those sort of things, it's way above your pay grade. You just want something that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my air compressor, and I usually do this in a confined area so I don't have dust and whatever this has been sitting in for the last 50 years all over my workbench. But for this video, I just have one of those inexpensive, they call them pancake air compressors. You can get them at Home Depot, Hobby Lobby, whatever. You can actually get a nail gun with them for a couple $100. So I'm just going to blow the most of the junk out of here. My compressor's turned off, so it's not going to make a lot of noise. I even tip it over, and you can see all the junk coming out of there. You know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put a pair of safety glasses on. I have contacts, and most of the time I end up having a issue because it hurts after junk gets in there. So I've lost my upper thread. I don't need it anymore, so I'm going to trim it up here above the tension unit. I'm going to hold the tension unit open with my fingers, pull it out, throw it out. So now there's a lot of ways to go with this. Some people start at the bottom, some people start at the top. I start on the top right with the hand wheel. So the hand wheel has a screw in it, and that screw actually will loosen this up for winding the bobbin, and it will tighten up to make the needle go up and down. So this screw you can take all the way out. I'm going to do it all the way out. You can take it part way out and then chase it all over the room. So it's all the way out. Now loosen that inner knob, and behind that inner knob is a washer. Now I have a lot of ways to remember how to put this in. Some of them are fairly benign and some are a little different. But remember, there's two little tabs on here. Those tabs have to go out. Think of those as noses. They point out. So they got to point out of the machine. It will fit perfectly fine like this and almost pretend to work if the tabs are pointing in, but you'll never be able to get it tight enough so it gets stitches and loosen enough to do the bobbin. So remember, those tabs always point outward like your nose. Now that is off. You should be able to kind of wiggle this whole hand wheel off. I love these old huge ones. I mean, they're almost a piece of art. You could hang those on the wall with some gears and stuff. You can have a pretty cool little, I mean, I'm pretty artsy fartsy myself, so I'm going to leave you with that. And you have a little guard up here that it usually has some decals on it. We're going to clean that carefully. I'm going to try to describe some of the cleaners to use. Now, as you can see, I'm going to grab one of my favorite tweezers. It's the Bernina tweezers, because they grab everything. And see, look, there's junk behind here. There's old threads. So you want to get anything that isn't part of the original equipment out of there. So we're going to pick at these threads for a while. There is a way to take this whole part out, but it is turning relatively easy enough. And you know, I may not even attempt to take this out. Sometimes, depending upon the way you turn it, you know, I might have to, because there's a lot of stuff in there. And you know, I'm going to have to experiment on this. I remember watching a video, and this is a really good resource. Here we go. There's a company called the Featherweight Shop, and they deal in featherweights, which is very similar to this technology in the 1930s and before. And they have a multitude. They must have 50 videos on how to work on your featherweight. So if you have a featherweight and you want to kind of restore it or get it to its original beauty, all these threads are starting to come out now. I must have found the right end. And you can watch their videos, and they're very well done. Here we go. See, look at that. You just have to go the counter of the usual turn, and pretty soon all that junk starts coming out. What's going to happen is it's going to make the machine turn easier, because all these threads, everything that's between two pieces of metal, is logically going to make it turn harder. So you want to get this junk out of there. And I might have to do a fast forward on this. There is an inspection hole here. I love my $5 pen lights that I sell. I sell a bunch of these. So I use these all the time. You know, I'm approaching that age where my eyes don't work so well anymore in the dark. So I use these pen lights all the time. So I know there's still thread behind there, so I might have to do a fast forward on this. But that is the hand wheel area. And you know, once you've got the hand wheel kind of cleaned up and stuff, you can advance over to the bobbin winder. So the bobbin winder is a pretty intricate part of the machine. I know you can't see close up, but I'm hoping that by watching your machine and kind of working on this, there is a little lever that disengages the bobbin winder. When you push it down, it latches in, and then the wheel here will have a rubber tire on it, and it'll go against the hand wheel and make the bobbin winder turn. And I really love these old style because they have teeth and gear. It's kind of like a fishing reel, and it levels the line, or it levels the thread back and forth on the bobbin. And this particular one is not playing very nice. He needs a little bit. I can hear him rattle, but it is turning, and the leveler is going back a little bit. So this will be just fine. All it needs is a little bit of cleaning and oil, and it'll be just fine. This big knob here is actually the stitch length. I think I mentioned that earlier. So you screw it out, it's one, you screw it in, it's another. And every hole in this body of this machine is engineered for a purpose. It will either give you access to something inside of it, or it will let you oil it from the top. So you really need to pay attention to all the different ports or the holes on these. So I said earlier, this is an AB 2000 and something serial number. In their heydays, the Singer company was making, I believe, 40,000 machines either a week or a month. But that's a lot of machines. And not only machines, they had to make cabinets, they had to, you know, make accessories and everything else. So the Singer company, if you ever want to do some research on that, it's very interesting. He actually stole the patent for the sewing machine. He went to court, lost, and had to pay the original inventor $10,000 for the patent. And Horace made billions of dollars or millions of dollars off of that patent. He was glad to pay the $10,000 patent infringement. So he was also kind of a womanizer, so he had to be shipped off to Europe sometimes to keep the brand name from being too degraded. So anyway, it's a fun little story if you want to read about him. All right, so bobbin winder is going to need a little bit of attention. It's got little drill holes in here, and then you put oil in those. So let's swing this around. On the back side, there's a beautiful little circle with engraving on it. You unscrew that, and you can actually just screw it, get this out of the way. You can screw it all the way off, but this gives you access to the insides of the workings of the machine, and that's something that you can get in there. You can actually use your air compressor, blow it out, and you can get in with your flashlight, and anything that moves, give it a cleaning and a bunch of oil, because at this point it's probably thirsty. How many years has this been? You have an access hole back here. You can kind of see some things. Oh, what is this for? I mean, this looks kind of weird. It's got a little flat spot with a threaded hole in it. Well, even when they made treadles, there were some places with electricity. You could actually buy a bracket, a motor, and attach an electric motor to this machine. And this bracket would support the motor, keep it from turning. So, the engineers were not dummies. They knew they had something, and they were going to be able to keep it going for a long time. So we're going to work on this here a little bit later. Probably a fast forward thing. Something always to watch for, even on your featherweights, is a medallion. These medallions are stamped on there, and they'll tell you certain things. Especially machines have a special medallion. 100-year-old anniversary machines, featherweights have a special medallion. Some Texas, what do they call it, State Fair have a special medallion. They are so valuable that people have been counterfeiting those and putting them on a machine. So you really need to check the serial number for the years. All right, now I am going to take the tension unit apart, and if you have a little green book that came with the machine, it'll give you the order with the tension unit goes back together. So we're going to unscrew this all the way. Always take a nice area or workspace and put all your pieces out in order. So that's just a thumb screw. I have a little trough here that I have actually kind of invented myself. It's a piece of downspout pipe, and I just screw it into mine workbench, so if I drop something off, it catches right into the trough there. So that's where I'm going to put all my parts. So there's the screw, or the nut, I should say, and the cone-shaped spring, and then you have a washer with a line through it. Now this actually is supposed to push, when you lift up the presser foot, it's supposed to push your tension unit apart. So apparently my pusher rod is not in there. And then we have a disc. This is the outer disc. This looks like a dinner plate upside down with a hole in it. These discs push the thread against each other to make the thread have tension. And the inner disc, there's no main order of these. If you see problems with this, you can actually put it on a really fine sandpaper and sandpaper them. And then we have a check spring. This check spring takes the tension out of each stitch and gives you a prettier stitch. So I got a lot of dirt and stuff here. Scraping it off with these tweezers. If I was worried about the finish of this, I probably wouldn't use tweezers. I love magic erasers. They really do a job fairly quick, because I have to do a job, time is money. Now, if I wanted to take this whole unit out, which I'm going to, there's a set screw right inside here, and I'm gonna find the right size screwdriver, loosen the set screw, and take this whole screw and post out. So let's see if I have the right size here. Yes. Imagine that. Now, all that set screw keeps that from moving. Look at that. We got something else. There's that nail or that item that's supposed to push in to make the tension units open when you thread it. So we'll see if there's probably a lever system that is needing some adjustment. But look how dirty that back side is. Magic eraser, and look at that. Almost shiny. So we're just going to clean this up. You can get as OCD as you want. I'm checking this check spring. This looks in great shape. I'm not even going to pull it out, because pulling it out makes you have to put it back in and catch the pin so it will bounce. What you want it to do is, with the rotation of the loop, you want it to come down and bounce up evenly with a little bit of pressure, not like 2 fingers worth, just 1 finger's worth of pressure. And you see that little slot in there? That's designed for this pin, or this little nail, to open up the tension unit when you raise up the presser foot. For some reason that adjustment's not there. So I'm going to put this back in, give it a chance to not get lost. I could put all these out, and I'd have to remember where everything went. And I've already had some wine, so it's scary. I'm going to put this about 12 o'clock where it stops. All right, now back in here, I'm going to tighten it up. There we go. Doesn't take much. Now, how did all these go back in? We had the nail part. It should be really called a pin, but I actually have lost these and made them out of finishing nails to MacGyver a machine to work right. So there's the inner tension disc, the outer tension disc. You have the plate with the cross in it. We have the cone-shaped spring with the volcano pointing at us. And now we have, oops, the screw. Oh, that's really got some really bad varnish on it. When it's that bad a varnish, I'm going to grab some sandpaper. Sandpaper's your friend. You can use a very fine sandpaper, the gray stuff, they call it wet dry, 600 grit, 1200 grit. So I use it all the time. It cleans up the edges. Now look at that. I didn't leave a scratch on it. Just have to find the right grit of sandpaper you like to use. Now this is really tricky. You don't want to just start throwing that nut on there without making sure it's threaded, because these threads are really, really funny and easy to strip. Okay, tension unit. And again, if you have a little green book, it probably has a page on each part how that tension unit works. All right, next, we are going to swing this guy around. Hope you can see all this right. I'm just talking up a storm here. I'm loving this. Now we're going to take the faceplate off. And the faceplates really have a little bit of art to them. I have a ultrasonic cleaner that these pieces that can handle water and a cleaner, I'll throw all these pieces in the ultrasonic cleaner and get them sparkling clean. So we're going to take this part off, see what's inside there. All right, so there's a thumb screw down here. Take that off, put it in a nice place. Sometimes you have to loosen the set screw up here. Let's see if it'll even tighten it up. See, it'll tighten it up, so you have to loosen it up sometimes. So I'm going to loosen it up. Just lift it up. It's got a keyhole type slot up there, so you can take it out. Now this definitely needs, it's got some nicotine scars and everything else on there, but it is very pretty piece of metal there. And look again, this is time for a little compressed air. And again, I don't have this cranked up. I usually use 100 or 110 pounds. I just didn't want it cranked up huge. So remember, I was trying to figure out why this, when I lift this up, there's a lever here that should push into the back of that tension unit and open it up when I thread it. Because you always thread with the tension unit up, with the presser foot up. And that's supposed to push the tension unit. So this lever system, this whole connection, is not working right. So I need to figure out, since my brain is right there now, I'm going to work on it. I'm trying to figure out if this is loose enough to work. This is not even moving. So it is kind of nasty in there. I'm scraping as I go to see what I have. And again, this probably hasn't moved in 50 years, so I'm trying to see why this guy is not working. My last resort is screwing. This actually, the screw that holds the presser foot lever on was super loose. And I'm not even sure it is. I'm going to get the right size screwdriver so people don't yell at me at the There we go. So I'm putting this presser foot lifter lever up. The screw is probably 10 turns loose. And that is working perfect like it's supposed to, but it's still not connecting to the levery system. There. It's trying to right there. But this whole lever system is kind of jammed up. Now that's too big a screwdriver. I'm going to try this one here and loosen this screw. And now I got some movement. Oh, it is actually moving the tension unit the way it's supposed to. So this is a good sign. So all we need to do is clean this out, and it probably is going to work fine without having to make any just additional adjustments by cleaning up behind that. I could take that whole part out. If you know me by now, I am totally against taking something apart all the way just because I can. I mean, why do it? The factory put it together the best way possible. If I can just clean it to get it working right again, that's what I'm going to do. So I have mineral spirits, I have lacquer thinner, I have a whole bunch of different type of cleaners, and even oil on a Q-tip will clean pretty well. But the mineral spirits is what I'm going to try right now. I'm going to see if I can't find some Q-tips and cleaning things. So I'm going to put some mineral spirits. There's a lot of different things that clean real well. Lacquer thinner is one of my favorite for bad oil, because oil turns to lacquer, so why wouldn't lacquer thinner be the logical choice to clean with? I also like kerosene. There's low smell kerosene that's not even a true kerosene, and it works really good. That's something I learned from the Featherweight company. They use it on featherweights at their shop that they restore, so I'm pretty sure they know what they're talking about. And I bought 2 or 3 different kinds before I found one that I liked the smell of, that didn't run me out of the house or cause me to have to live in the doghouse because I smelled up the basement. So this is an effort of patience. You just need to keep cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. So there's a Q-tip, done. Grab another one. They're cheap. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can use a towel, you can use a rag, you can use whatever you want. But you need to get that junk out of there. The bad oil, the old stuff, if it's dusty and icky, it's just going to absorb the oil, and it's going to make it need to be maintained sooner than you would think. So I'm just going to clean a little bit here. Again, it's all a matter of your comfort level, how clean you want it to get. I'm probably going to do more than this, but I'm not going to do it for the video. Now, what I have to do is I have to see if I have caused that screw right there to be clean enough behind it to function this tension unit release. Because I'm seeing it move back and forth a little bit. So I can move it just a little bit there. It's moving pretty well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this screw open, throw some of my yellow capped oil behind there, and hopefully that will. Now I'm drenching it. This guy has been, I am doing a little more oil than I would do at any other time. And basically, since I have it in my hand, I'm just oiling areas I know that rotate. So, all right. So let's see what we do when we tighten up that screw now. I'm going to tighten up the screw that attaches to the the tension unit opener. Oh, it's working just fine now. Just a little bit. Maybe this needs a little bit more finessing. You know, it's all a linkage system. So when this goes up, I'm pushing into this guy. So I want it to open up these discs and release them. Now when it's down, these discs are really tight. So I know it's hard to see this, but there's just no way of me to work with my hands and get really tight in there. But hopefully me stepping you and talking you through each one of these, it's going to help you out. Now, there's a bar here. See this bar that goes up right there and right there? That's the presser foot bar. And I'm going to give it some mineral spirits to kind of clean it out. Those guys go away real fast. And then you can wipe them out. And now I'm going to give it my oil. And you know, sometimes the mineral spirits will actually degrade the oil you put right back in there, so you're going to have to oil it again. Now we have this bar here. Follow this bar. It makes the needle go up and down. See that? So there's your needle bar. So I like to oil that shaft and the inner parts. That's going up and down a million times. Literally, this machine's probably had 20 million stitches on it through the years. And because of the engineering on it and the way they made things back then, it's still going strong. And again, I'm not going to break these screws loose just because I can. I mean, you could take all of that out of there, clean it, shine it, polish it, put it back in, and you know, have a museum quality piece. But who's going to go and look inside there? You know, if it works, it sews, it's great. I'm going to do more on the outside part of this machine because this is going to be a decorator piece. And it's going to sew, it's going to be great, but the big part of it is wants to look great. So that's where I'm heading. All right, now I usually take the presser foot off. It's on with a thumb screw, and I'm going to take the thumb screw out. There's quite a few different type of presser feet. Anyway, this one has a lot of lacquer buildup and stuff on it, so I'm going to need to put this in a ultrasonic cleaner or just clean it with lacquer thinner and stuff. And might as well take the needle out. I know it sews, so I'm going to see if I can't move it up with my hand. Yeah, it's nice and smooth. That needle, what I do with needles is I take a medicine bottle and I drill a little hole in the top like this, a medicine pill bottle, drill a hole, put the needle in there. Now that's out of the way. And now I have a supply of used needles when I want to pound something in the wall with them. They make really good holders when I'm putting a quilt or something on the wall. So some of my things on the wall, like that right there, there's things that are just put up with the needles that have been used. All right, so now let's take a look at the feed dogs, what's underneath the pressure plate. So this guy will come off. It's on with the spring. I'll show you how to put it back on when it comes that time. And again, there's the little button to take the bobbin out. Now, some of these Singer models, they let you take the bobbin case out just by lifting this little finger to the right. And this one is one of those. So I can lift this finger and push it to the right. And now the bobbin basket, or the bobbin case I call it, will sometimes wiggle out of there. I'm going to do it after I take the screws out of the presser plate. So you have a plate over your feed dogs, and I've lost a screwdriver. There it is. And I'm going to take that plate off. You always need to take this plate off. You know why? There's stuff between your toes. There's never good stuff between your toes. I call it the feed dogs. And then between the feed dogs, there's these little slots, and I call it the toes. And there's always jam between the toes. So you got to clean those out. I've seen so much that's actually stopped the machine from sewing. On Berninas that have the clips on the plate, I've seen so much lint built up between the feed dogs that it pushes the pressure plate off of the clips. So this one has been 50 years since it's been opened up. You can kind of tell because the slot in the screw doesn't even have enough depth to it to keep the screwdriver in it. So here we go. We're getting these screws out of there. I actually have a little device for baby locks that takes these screws out. It's a little clear disc with a metal piece in there. All right, up we go. All right. So there's your needle plate. This one has no markings on it. It has a lot of goop and stuff on the back. Now, I am looking down. I like to take my tweezers and go, and there's the jam between the feed dogs. Just picking it out between the little gear-shaped stuff on the top, because if that does not have a nice sharp surface, it won't move your fabric. Did you notice what I just did there? This is the ledge that the plate fits into, and it's got some old debris and stuff in there, so that's all cleaned out now too, just by that nice tool that I'm using here. This is such a versatile tool, the tweezers, offset head. Okay, so this piece is the bobbin case or bobbin basket, and sometimes you have to rotate your lower part around a little bit there to get it out. And if it doesn't, there's an adjustment you can do to get it all the way out. And this guy is probably going to be one of those I'm going to have to. There it goes. Eventually, as soon as you give up, it just pops out. The metal ones are great because they never wear out. They're made out of black plastic or Barcolite now on the newer machines. So what I'm doing is I'm just scraping all the junk and stuff that's accumulated over there all these years. And this has a spring. There's a secondary piece of metal attached to this bobbin case. And I usually take a very fine pin and I put it between the big piece of metal and the spring, and I bring it from the screw area forward. And this way, if there's any pieces of lint or thread in there, it actually pushes it out to the very end. So again, this would be another piece that I would probably put into a cleaner. You can use a toothbrush and your lacquer thinner and really clean this out because it really needs it. It'll be something later on, maybe in my fast forwards. Oh man, you can't see this. I'm gonna grab the camera, but it has stuff down in here. All right, I really can't see this, but it has packed in lint. There's a chunk. There's a chunk. There's a chunk. So what I'm going to do is see if I can rotate this. See how it oscillates? It doesn't go all the way around. It's an oscillator. And these are probably the most reliable. They're just really simple to work on. And you know, it's just full of stuff. And this is just going to take your time, your patience. And see how now that's in the sewing position. See how I did that? That's in the sewing position. Lift up and push it to the right when you're looking at it, and that's when you can get access and pull out that bobbin case and basket and stuff. And lots of your machines, lots of your singers do this. If you lift up on here and it doesn't move, then you have to find screws that will let you get that out. A lot of times there's a finger in this area that kind of holds it in place. Anyway, back to the station you go. Hopefully it doesn't fall off of there. All right. And this whole area we're working on It is the part that rotates. It's called the hook area. You have your feed dogs here and finger, and now we're going to tip the machine over and see what's going on the bottom. So a lot of times I have a bean bag here that I just use to keep the machine in the right angle that I want to work on it. All right. So the bottom of these older type machines have two main parts coming down for the top, and then something that either oscillates or rotates the hook to make the stitch. This guy here, this really heavy one, it makes the feed dogs work. The feed dogs have to push the fabric to the back as it's sewing, and they have to drop when the needle is out of in the fabric. They have to drop so it can move, and they have to be out of the fabric when the needle is whatever. Just a timing thing. So you have to kind of watch to see. I've been working on a machine and I totally got it 180 degrees out of timing, and while the needle was in the fabric, the feed dogs were trying to push the fabric, and that didn't work at all. So you got to watch. The feed dogs got to be up when the needle is up, and they got to be down when the needle's down. So I think that's the right way. All right, so the way this big piece of metal works is it's on two little points here. There's two little metal pieces with arrowheads on them that hold this piece in place and let it rock back and forth. So these get neglected all the time, so you have to give them some oil or some grease right at those points right there. Very, very important. I would actually clean this all off before I'd oil it, but for this, you know, I'll do it again after I've cleaned it and stuff. So if you, a lot of times I will put the hand wheel back on, and of course, which way do these go out? They point out like a nose. So I'm going to put the tabs back in there, and I'm going to put this back in because I love to rotate as I'm oiling. Crank that on there. Because when you rotate something as you're oiling, you see what's moving. So I'm seeing what's moving, and I know that needs oiling and cleaning. So that's moving right there. Look at all these points. And Singer has been really smart. They put little pilot holes or little drill holes in a lot of these places that really, really need the oil. And that gets the oil down through the shaft. Again, I'm going to do there and there. There. Everything that's moving. If it's moved, you know, in the Army it said if it moves, salute it. If it doesn't, paint it. So if it moves, I oil it. And, okay. And this guy is actually feeling a lot smoother already. Time you get some high speed to this guy's going to fly. And you can see this was Simpatico, USA, gives you some more numbers in there. And if you look up inside the little tunnel, there's not a lot that goes on up there. There's just, you know, that's just the access point from the top of the machine. So the top shaft has to be timed with the bottom shafts and everything else working. Otherwise, it's just not going to sew. And again, timing is something really, really hard to show on YouTube, so I'm not even going to go there. If you do need timing, there's several other videos out there that they have a better close-up camera than I do, and they'll be able to do a better job. So that's this part of it. And as I rotate it, I'm really liking the feel of it, but I know I have a lot more cleaning to do, so I am going to go ahead and turn this video off for a while and fast forward it, and you will be at the next step, and I will show you the finishing process, how to clean it with the better type of products that I've experimented with, because you don't want to take an abrasive product and take off these really delicate decals and stuff. As you see right here, it's been used so much it's polished really well right here, but we don't want to take the rest of the decals off, and we're okay with a little bit of patina that looks some shiny and some dull. At least I am, because that just tells me it's the real McCoy. So again, next time you see me, we'll be into the next step. All right, so remember I still had thread around here and I hadn't totally got it out. There is a screw on top of a lot of these machines that holds this whole little fender and everything on there. So I'm taking that screw off, and now I'm going to be able to clean this guy real easily just without having to reach. And now look at all the thread and junk that is around there. There's solid pieces of things in here. I don't have to take this whole assembly apart. All the thread and stuff is coming off like it's meant to. So there you go. One more trick for you. Now, when I was tilting this back, I oiled inside here, and it just lubricated that so well that now I can, it will actually spin and actually rotate all on its own. So it is really in a good condition right now. I'm going to reach in there and do a little bit more oiling and be back with you. All right, so I got a little pan full of pieces and parts here, and they're the dirtiest, ickiest ones. So I'm going to attempt to clean them just with a glass cleaner and see how well that turns out. If not, I'm going to progress my way up through the levels of cleaners and just go from there. So I'm just going to use a paintbrush and a cleaner. Now, they say on a lot of these machines that Singer made that they have a decal on them, they have a clear coat on them. So you don't want to use alcohol base or some really aggressive base cleaners on the painted area, because they may affect the clear coat and they may affect the decals. So I like the patina look and I want to keep them the way they are. So I'm going to try to not use anything that I don't know what's in it. So I'm probably going to use a product from the Featherweight company, because they work with the Featherweight black with clear coat and decals, and I may use a product on that. But right now I'm kind of just letting this do its job. This is all nickel coated. They call it chrome, but it's actually a nickel coating or whatever. And I'm trying to see how well this glass cleaner is cutting through, and it's really not doing a very good job. So I'll probably go a little stronger. That I use a blue cleaner from Loctite that they use on drill rigs and stuff. That's what I use on all my sewing machines. So I might use that on these metal parts. Anyway, I'll let you know the results. All right, so the cleaning process. I took this assembly off. This is look at how nice and pretty, you can't, yeah, look at the details on that. I took this assembly off. It's only held on with one screw right here on the top of by the hand wheel, and it's the bobbin winder and everything else. And I took it all apart, and I found that mineral spirits and a magic eraser were my best results. I mean, you could sit and clean and clean and clean for hours, but this was a pretty good result for a non-damaging. So I just squirted this down with the glass cleaner, and I squirted this magic eraser with the glass cleaner, and I have a huge buildup of something besides paint here. So I am just using the magic eraser till it just disintegrates, and just it's a pretty quick result, and I'm into results. So I'm just cleaning. I might put this on fast forward, and you'll just see the end result of this in no time at all. But at home, it's going to take you a lot longer than what you see here. I did use a magic eraser over the decals, and if you just be real careful and not get past the whatever clear coat or whatever's on top of that decals come right to life. So I am going to use magic eraser and some sort of cleaner. When it's lacquer, I'm going to use either lacquer thinner or mineral spirits on the metal parts to get those clean. I have done, remember that end plate? There it is. So the end plate is nice and shiny. All the lacquer is off the edge. I did this with the magic eraser and mineral spirits. So I'm not using mineral spirits right here on the paint area, but we're just going to clean this area off and see how well this goes. I'm just going to be talking, and if I feel like speeding this up to fast forward, my editing is going to be my first attempt at true editing. I have edited some of my videos, but very few of them. Most of my videos are one take. I don't even write a script down. I just want to talk about something. And if I know it, I can talk about it. If I don't know about it, I'm not going to fake it. I'm just going to not talk about it. So I am cleaning off all the little areas that I think I'm not going to damage. I know there's going to be purists out there. You shouldn't do that. Well, the purists already know what to do. They don't need to be watching this video. I'm trying to teach somebody that wants to do it on their own and have a little nice piece of art that pertains to their sewing love that they can display somewhere in their house and not have $5,000 invested in it. And elbow grease, time, and to be able to say, yeah, look what I restored, is a great way to feel about something. I love the way these decals are looking here. If you can see, you can't tell. I mean, they've turned bright gold already compared to, couldn't even hardly see them before. So I've got a good layer or two of this off, and I will use a finishing compound on this surface, and a really high quality car paint polish, and that will give this a black shine that should make it stand out and look good wherever I put it. Again, I have no idea whether any of these audios are going to turn out. So this guy has tarnish all over him, and let's just try him right now. I'm going to do a brand new Mr. Clean magic eraser. I'm going to squirt him with this glass cleaner, and on top of that glass cleaner I'm going to put mineral spirits. I don't think it's going to blow up. I think it'll be okay. And now I'm just going to do cleaning. Now this magic eraser is going to absorb a lot of these compounds I just put in there. And it's going to look disgusting. And nothing's really happening. Not hardly anything at all. So I'm thinking this is going to need a little bit of time. I mean, I'm getting the top areas are doing okay. So I'm going to give it some mineral spirits and give it a little bit of time. I wish I had lacquer thinner here. Have that at a different location. So I really can't do much with that. Oh, the other thing I did is when I had metal on metal and it looked like it pretty bad, so I'd give a little lacquer thinner and I'd give it this really, really fine sandpaper, like 200 or 300 or 600. And there you go, we got it nice and clean. So that guy, but I'm not going to use sandpaper on this area that has been punched and looks like a nice scroll effect. Well, this is working pretty good. My gloves are doing a pretty good job of rubbing that lacquer thinner in, not lacquer thinner, but mineral spirits, and getting it to kind of break the surface there. Once you can kind of break that dirt surface, seems to be a pretty good, way to get going. I'm going to try an old toothbrush, or actually a hammer brush. Actually, that's from my old high school typewriter. Olivetti. I got an electric typewriter for a college or a high school graduation gift. Tell you how old I am. That's before computers, before word processors, even before whiteout. Whiteout was a great invention. One of the magicians on the Monkees, his mother invented whiteout. Kitchen sink invention, one of the last kitchen sink inventions, they say, that's going to make that kind of money. She whipped it out, whipped it up, kind of little concoction, and brought it into market. At least that's what I heard. Now, sometimes you shouldn't repeat if you don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that it sounded like a good story. All right, let's let this down some and see if we can get this embossing any better. Oh, this is going to take a little more time, but I'm getting there. So on YouTube, I watch this gal, and if you search on YouTube, Strong Village Girl, she can't be much more in her mid-20s, and she is so smart. She restores electric motors, she restores chainsaws, she can do her own bedroom, and she's somewhere in a Asian country, in a little village. Literally, she'll totally take all the wires out of a motor and put them all back in the right place. Oh, this is almost there. And then biggest smile after she tests it. So she's got a lot of viewers. I don't know how much money she's making. I hope she is making a lot of money off of YouTube views, because she deserves it. She's a genius. And sometimes she gets paid off in fish or a goat or just a friend. So I think it's pretty cool that this is done. Looks almost as pretty as this uncirculated silver dollar. All right, we are clean. And I'm going to leave it there. Now, let's see what we're doing here. I can really see a lot of dull here. I got pretty good on the crown of this thing. So this is not doing so well. So I'm going to give it some mineral spirits. One of my gloves is still working good. I got a thumb exposed over here on my left side. That's my dominant hand. jpvlefty at AOL.com. Yeah, you can pretty much figure out that Anything I do has got to pertain to being left-handed. It's just going to take some time. Now, I hate using metal on metal. I'm trying to see how thick this old oil, disgusting dirt stuff is, and it's pretty thick. It's kind of looks like earwax. Not a appetizing sight. And you know, that's just a crevice there, and you know, this thing's been around since 1920. It's seen a lot of oil through the years. And if you can understand the pressure you're giving on the tip of a tool, you can use metal on metal, metal on paint. Just got to understand, one slip and you're going to be regretting it. So, you know, I'm not going to have this film the entire time and try to edit through it. So I'm going to turn it off, but this is the process. This guy is needing a lot of elbow grease. And then after this stuff's off of there, we're going to do a finishing compound and then a polish. Hello, I have finished this old Singer and it is shining as good as it's going to. And I just wanted to share with you what my best results were as far as being able to get this shine. You know, I can see myself in the shine in certain areas. Certain areas I actually chose not to scrub very hard, because what you're seeing at that transition between the shiny and the dull is clear coat, and that clear coat is 100 years old and it's not as clear as it used to be, kind of like our eyes are now. So I chose not to really go aggressive on that clear coat so I could save the decals. So you can see where it's super shiny, you can see yourself on it, you can see yourself right here, and I saved what I could of the decals. And look at how nice and shiny this nose plate is. And look at this plate back here. So when it's sitting in the cabinet, this is what you see when you pull it up. So I wanted to have it as shiny and pretty as I could and save as much decals of it as I could. And this thing sews beautifully. Look at this guy. It just, give it a shot. Now I will demonstrate this in the cabinet and I'll sew it with the Treadle unit on it. We also have the serial number. The AB has to be fairly soon after 1900 because they started with the letter A. And I think my customer is going to be very pleased. I probably have 2 or 3 or 4 hours of elbow grease into this, but you know, it's part of the video. So, you know, I'm going to charge my customer my usual amount on it, and you know, she wants this as to be a piece that she can have open in her, you know, living space and be proud of. And I think I would be proud of displaying this when it has a nice shine like this. And you know, what I found to be the best was I used this product, and you get this at True Value. It's called Flitz, and I read on the back of it, and I'll read it to you right now. It contains no ammonia, no abrasives, acid-free, non-toxic. It's great for all types of surfaces, even paints and metals. So I use this in conjunction with my rubber gloves. I would put it on the surface of the area I wanted to go with, and I would put my rubber gloves on and I rub it in. And if I really wanted to get aggressive, if there was a place that the clear coat was being stubborn, I would use the magic eraser. I didn't seem to damage the paint whatsoever, and where I wanted to get the clear coat removed, that worked perfectly. So I would recommend this Flitz polish, and it really works great. And then at the very end, I took a high quality car wax, and I put car wax on there and buffed it in there, and this is why we have the nice, wonderful, you know, you have the shine to it, and you know, for 100 years old, I just hope I can look this good at 100 years. Thanks. Okay, we're at the point. We cleaned this cabinet. We cleaned it off with like a cleaner, and then we wiped on a wipe-on surface, so the cabinet's looking great. Now we have to reinstall the machine and put it on these pins and then tighten it down. So hopefully I can do this. So we're gonna get those pins in line. I like it when you stay up. I don't think they're going to. So I'm lining them up and then tilting them back. Now they're in there. Now I need to take my screwdriver and set those in tight. If you don't, it's going to fall down in the hole. And I forgot my microphone, so I'm going to have to try to make sure you guys can hear me. So I'm getting these nice and tight. Sometimes you have to loosen them and make sure it fits inside the opening. That down, so we're testing. All right, so we have a good fit. Now we're going to put a brand new leather belt on this. This treadle is going to be have a new belt on it. So we are going to attempt to get this through. There's a guide hole there. There's a guide hole there. Now I'm going to go all the way around this wheel and then come back through the other guide holes. Make sure you have enough room to work around. I didn't in the shop. It's fallen off of the wheel. You got to make sure it stays on everything, because we're going to trim this to size. So here we go. Came off the back here. You don't want to trim it if it's not on the wheel. Then you'd be buying another cable. So here we're going around here. Trying to hold it on the bottom while I get a chance to get some pressure on it. Okay. All right. It's on the wheel. I got pressure on. I don't want to lose the pressure. And I'm trying to thread it back on around the top here. And these belts are longer. So we're going to need to custom cut this belt, and it's got to come down through. All right, you want to make sure this is still working nice and snug. And before I mark this and cut it, I'm going to make sure it's still on all the wheels and through the guides. It is. So you want to mark it to where you trim the excess. And one side has the hook on it already and the other side doesn't. So I've found that if you take a rose trimmer, and that cuts off real well. So testing one more time, that's going to be good. Now the trick's going to be, I have to drill a little hole for this hook to go into. You can drill it with a little mini drill bit. You can try to use a large pin like I tried doing with a large safety pin. If you kind of come up, not quite a 1/4 inch, about not an 1/8 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. And you can drill it kind of with the big safety pin. I'm going to use a drill. Because the drilled hole will take that hook a lot better than, there we go, all the way through, than trying to do it with a pin. Okay, now I got to rethread that all over again, and then the hook I'm going to clamp down tight with this. And you want to make sure you have the machine in the operating position while you're threading all this. And I'm going to thread it after I hook this back together because I've got it measured. Okay, I'm going to squeeze this hook together and then this hook together. Thread it on there and test it. So stop now and I'll do that later. Okay, so it's working well. You give it a little start. Get it going the right direction so that belts. It could be a touch tighter, but it's working. So let's thread it. So I got the thread on the top, over this hook, raise the pressure foot, around the tension unit, check spring around the stirrup.
Okay, what day in October did you want
through
to?
the take-up lever.
Thursday, October 6th? Yes.
Flip there.
Put your name down.
Through a guide, through the last guide, and now through the eye of the needle, and it's too ragged, so it's not going to go through there without trimming it. Yeah, we even got this part to work.
Okay, would you mind giving me your phone number?
So cut this at an angle.
Bring up your account.
Thread the needle. I already have the bobbin in there. Yeah, these guys didn't have lights.
There you are. Okay. Hold on a minute.
All right. There's the bobbin thread. Let's see what we got. My stitch length, I have it kind of at a regular stitch length. Woohoo! Come up.
Okay.
Perfect stitch. Maybe a tad tight, it's puckering a little bit, but it's beautiful. So there's our restored Singer treadle machine when we put it down into its case. When I showed you the very first version of it, was so full of...
And the expiration date? Sorry, say that again.
So there we go. Got a little dust there to clean off, but not too bad. Take a look down there. Look how pretty that is. So even when it's ready to present itself, it's gonna be perfect. Bring that up. And now, which happens when you put it down, it likes to come off the wheel a little bit. That can be put right back on. So there you go.